Well, welcome everyone. We're glad you braved the absolutely gorgeous weather to come out today. Thank you. I'm Melissa Bostrom. I'm Assistant Dean for Graduate Student Professional Development in the Graduate School. And today's event is co-sponsored with the Office of Postdoctoral Services. The illustrious Mark Matheson will be video recording today's session for folks who couldn't make it. And I want to say a special thanks to Heather Dillon from the Jackson Lab, who sponsored your lunch today. So if you are enjoying free food, please thank the Jackson Lab and Heather, and I'll introduce her in just a moment. If free food was one of the things that brought you out today, let me also put a plug in for more free food. So today's event is part of Graduate Student Appreciation Week, and there is a spring cookout on the graduate school lawn, 2127 Campus Drive, from 4 to 6 p.m. today. So that'll be burgers, hot dogs, veggie burgers, vegan, vegetarian options, all available. And we hope that we'll see all of you there between 4 and 6 today. All right, so enough talk of food. Let's get down to serious business. Let's talk about perfecting your pitch. I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Heather Dillon. She is University Relations Specialist for the Jackson Laboratory, which I understand is called JAX. For those in the know. She serves as an ambassador for JAX research and educational programs and assists the laboratory with attracting the best talent, obviously all of you. In this role, she travels to conferences, professional meetings, and university campuses, as well as career fairs to raise awareness of JAX's basic research, science research programs and educational offerings. She graduated with highest honors from the University of California, Davis, with a degree in neurobiology, physiology, and behavior. And she has a master's degree in cognitive neuroscience from Dartmouth College. With over a decade of experience in recruitment and advising, Heather has assisted literally hundreds of graduate students and postdocs with their academic job searches and application materials. She's really devoted to helping trainees succeed in their chosen professions by providing career guidance and advice through seminars, workshops, and individual meetings. So please join me in a round of applause for Heather.
As I said, hope you enjoy the lunch. And we're a small enough group, please feel free to interrupt, ask questions. We can keep this really informal. But just as an overview of what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be helping you perfect your pitch when you're going out for your job applications and how to put those together, how to do that search. So we'll start out where to look for positions, how do you go about finding positions, then how do you prepare for both your job search and putting together your applications. And finally, I'll conclude with just some resources at the Jackson Laboratory that can help you with your career development and also with your research, both now and in the future. Before we get into that, I'd like to know a little bit more about you guys in the audience. And so by show of hands, how many people are currently graduate students, PhD students? All right, most of you. Do we have any postdocs? All right. Anybody who falls into another category that I did not mention? Okay, great. And so for career interests, how many of you are looking to do a postdoc as the next step in your career? All right. How many of you are looking to become a faculty member? Okay. How many of you are looking for a research position outside of academia, so like an industry? Okay, great. And how many of you are looking for something away from the bench? Do we have anybody there? Okay. So non-bench work side of maybe like research administration kind of things. Okay. All right. And time frame. So how many of you are looking to start a new job in the next 6 months? All right. In the next year? More than a year. All right, great. So we've got kind of a great cross-section of people. That's great. I hope you all will find some useful information in what we're going to talk about today. So as I said, we're going to start first off with where to look for positions. And so I'm going to ask you guys, what are some places, especially I know we have one lady here who's looking right now, basically, or very soon. Where have you looked for positions, and for the rest of you, where are some places that you think you would go to look for positions when you're ready to start your job search? Anybody?
So I've been looking in the area, because I'm sort of, we localized to the area for a while, so I've been looking at labs that I'm already interested in applying for postdocs, just looking at their website, seeing if they have information posted about whether or not they'll be looking for postdocs.
Okay, so specific lab websites. Any other ideas of where you could go and look for positions?
Indeed.
Indeed.
Like Monster or anything like that.
Yeah, Monster job search sites.
ResearchGate.
ResearchGate.
NC Biotech.
NC Biotech, okay.
Nature jobs.
Nature jobs, so yeah, so. Anything else? Any other ideas? All right. Well, so a lot of you mentioned online resources, and that's obviously an easy place to start. But there are a lot of other resources that you can take advantage of, and I would really encourage you to do so. And we'll go through each of these in detail. So as we said, we talked about, a lot of you mentioned online. That is a place where a lot of people start their job search, whether job boards, institutional websites, individual lab websites, also social media. Most institutions these days have social media feeds. You can sign up for updates. They often push out job notifications on those. So that's obviously a good place to start, but I definitely encourage you to go deeper than that. And a lot of the keys to success in a job search revolve around who you know, right, and who they know. So a lot of it comes down to networking, which I know can sometimes be that evil, nasty word. People are scared of networking, but it's really just making connections. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you think about it, when you go to a scientific conference, you're talking to people at their posters, you're looking for people who may be potential collaborators, that's networking. That's the key of networking. So you're already doing it in a professional capacity, probably most of you. You're just applying this now to more of a job network as opposed to a scientific research network. So another good place to look for jobs, obviously, is a career fair. Institutions that come there are actively hiring, but you don't have to be at the point where you're ready to apply for a position to take advantage of that. Again, it's all about making connections. If you're interested in career opportunities with that organization or types of jobs that they offer, you can talk to them about those positions, about what types of skills or background they're really looking for that can help you to develop those skills so that you're ready to apply when you get to that point. And also you can start meeting people who, you can ask them to put you in contact with someone who has that current job or who oversees people in that job. And so then when you're ready to apply for positions, those are people who may reach out to you actually and let you know when there's jobs available, or can help you by reviewing your materials or refer you to other people they know who are hiring. So career fairs can often be held at your institution. So here at Duke, you'll probably see career fairs come through. You can take advantage of those. Also, professional organizations and scientific societies will often hold career fairs. So like Nature Jobs, Science Careers, they have career fairs that they host around the country, and different scientific societies may have them associated with their annual meetings. So take a look, be on the lookout for those and to take advantage of those opportunities. Obviously, your mentor can be a good source of potentially referring you to people he or she knows who may be looking for or maybe working in the area you're interested in. But don't limit yourself to your direct supervisor. Your scientific collaborators or other people you know through work, colleagues, can also serve as mentors and serve as resources to help you connect with people who may have jobs that are of interest to you. And don't forget about your alumni. Alumni networks are a great resource to take advantage of. I mean, you think about all the people who have come through the program, they're spread across the US and across the world in a variety of different careers. And you already have a built-in connection with them, right? Because you share your school together. So it makes it really easy to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm a student at Duke. I know you were in my program. I'd really love to talk to you about your current job and how you got there and what tips you have for me on how I could get into that field. Publications, again, if you want to stay in science, is obviously a good place to start. You may find some people doing interesting research. Somebody mentioned looking at labs in the area. Again, finding people. Take it to the next step, actually contact the authors on the paper. Again, even before you're ready to search. I really enjoyed your paper that just came out in Nature. I'd love to talk to you about what you're doing now, or the next steps in your research. Most people are really happy to talk about themselves and talk about their work. So again, if you ask them for 5 or 10 minutes of their time, most people are willing to give that to you. And you can also use this to connect to people at conferences. So if you found someone whose paper you really like, find out if they're going to the conference in that area, and try to set up a time to meet them for coffee or connect with them in person is always even better than online. As I said, conferences, great place to network. People you hear a presentation, you really enjoy the work that's going on, again, reach out to that person. You can try to talk to them afterwards. Sometimes that can be hard, but often conferences will have messaging services, or you can get email addresses. Go ahead and email them and see if they have 5 or 10 minutes to have coffee with you while they're at the conference. Talk about their work. A lot of conferences now have career development sessions, which is also a great place to go to just develop your skills, gain some expertise. And don't forget about the exhibit booths. The companies are there mostly to sell products or inform you about something. But it's all about making connections, right? And I'm sure they're usually happy to talk to you about what it's like to work at that organization, and can probably connect you with somebody in the career, working in the particular job that you're interested in. So most of the people there will probably be sales or HR related, but they can connect you to people who are working in the jobs that you're interested in. Seminars, another great place to meet people. Again, people from all around the world are coming here to present their work and talk about what they do, either in your department, at the institution as a whole, or also in the larger research community. I mean, here you've got access to a number of other universities that are bringing in speakers, also other research organizations. So take advantage of those opportunities as well to meet people, connect with people. And so as we said, most of these methods are really about building your professional network. And it's just, you can be successful. I'm not saying you can't be successful just applying blindly to job ads without any connections, but it's a long and arduous process. You think about all the people you're competing with. And people, when they're hiring, often they like to know a little bit more than just a paper, right? They're making a huge investment in you. And so if they have someone else they know and they trust their opinion who says, this person is great, it's another source of information, that helps move you to the top of the pile and really gives you a leg up in that process. So it just makes your job searching a little easier. And also, again, by networking, getting to know people in the jobs, getting known and recognized for your abilities, they may reach out to you with opportunities too. So again, it just really helps you professionally and as you move forward in your career. So now we've talked a little bit about where to look. We're now going to talk how do you prepare for your job search and how do you put together your applications. So again, I've broken this down into steps, and we'll start with each of these. So the first thing is plan. And the best advice is to start early. This is especially true for building your network. Sometimes you may have heard the saying, the best time to look for a job is when you don't need one. And that's definitely true, right? So the best time to make those connections and start investigating options is before you actually need a job. So you've got all of that in place. The other thing to keep in mind is that a job search and all this preparation takes time. So you're going to want to plan time in your schedule. Set it aside, dedicate a block of time to devote to figuring out what you want to do, exploring options, and then ultimately when you get to the stage where you need to apply and interview, that's going to take even more time. So make sure you're putting that in your schedule along with all the other things you have to do, classes, experiments, whatever else is going on in your life. Because it's easy to let this slip away if you don't actually dedicate and plan time to it. The other thing you need to do early on is some self-evaluation. So before you can really start looking for jobs and exploring those job options, you need to figure out what you actually want to do, right? So what kind of job are you interested in? And to do this, it's helpful to think about your personal values, your professional interests, and your particular abilities. So what do we mean by that? So your values are the things that drive you. These are the core things that are important to you, that you feel give meaning to your life and give importance to your work. So again, this could be maybe your value is having time for family or having a good work-life balance, and that's what's really important to you. Maybe you like to work collaboratively as part of a team. Maybe you prefer more independence. Maybe recognition for your work is important to you. So you want to be recognized and known for what you do. Maybe helping people is one of those things that drives you. So you want to be doing something where you have an impact that benefits humanity. There's a lot of different things you can think about in this, but again, if you find a job that aligns with your personal values and work for an organization that shares those values, you're going to feel better and enjoy your work more. So the other thing to think about are the things you like to do, so your interests. And this list is obviously more of an outside of work interests, which are important to consider. They can help inform your decision. But you also want to think about the things you enjoy about working. What type of work do you enjoy doing? So these are the things if you have free time or if you had the choice to do, that you would prefer to do. And it's important to distinguish your interests from your abilities. And your abilities are the things that you're good at. But just because you're good at something doesn't mean you actually enjoy doing it, right? And so, But most people, when they're looking to hire you, they're going to be hiring you based on your abilities more than your interests, right? And so you can do some self-evaluation, and if you find there's a mismatch there between what you like to do and what you're good at, you may think about developing skills in the areas of your interest, and that way you'll be more competitive and better suited for jobs that may be a better fit for you interest-wise. And so ultimately, you know, you're hoping to find a job that kind of is at the intersection of these three. And that's where you'll have the most career satisfaction and hopefully be the happiest. And so we're going to just take a little second now and start some of this self-evaluation. So I've got a worksheet here with an exercise, and I'm going to ask you guys to just think about, you know, your three most important values, the activities and interests, your three top interests, and your three strongest abilities. I'll wrap that up now. Hopefully you've gotten a good start on that. How did you guys find that exercise? Yeah? Was it challenging at all, or yeah? Okay. Yeah, it's often hard to do this self-reflection. And unfortunately, you're the only person who can answer most of these. For your abilities, you can ask for advice, again, from your mentor, or your peers, your colleagues. They may be able to give you some insight into what they think you're good at. But for the other two, your values and interests, really, it's your own soul searching, right? You need to think about what you like to do and what's important to you. And this self-reflection is kind of one of the harder ways to do it, unfortunately. There are some inventories that can help you with that. So, What Color is Your Parachute by Richard Bowles is a book, but it's also now a website, eParachute. And so they have an assessment. There is a small fee for taking it, but it can help you do this kind of assessment. There's also the Strong Interest Inventory, and a lot of university career centers have that and offer it, so you can check and see if they can give you access to that. And then there's also My IDP from Science Careers, which is completely free. It's an online resource. How many of you have done a Science Careers? Okay, great. For those of you who haven't, I would definitely encourage you to check it out. It's pretty easy. It doesn't take a lot of time. And at the end of that, they give you kind of a list of careers that may be a good fit for you. And like I said, it's geared towards scientists, so it talks about your scientific skills as well, which these other types of inventories don't really do. One thing to keep in mind is that, you know, it'll come out with a list. All these will come out with some sort of list that tells you, oh, you're a 98% match for this type of career. That doesn't mean that that's what you're destined to do and that's the only thing you should ever look at, you know, and that's what you absolutely have to do. Use this as a guide, right? It's just to give you some ideas of types of careers that may be a fit for you. You can do some more research, explore those, but definitely read out the full thing and use it that way, not as a roadmap of this is exactly the path I have to take, but here are some options that I should explore. The other thing to keep in mind is that, you know, as we go on in life, these things may change for you too, you know, so your values, your interests, even your abilities may change over time. And so, you know, it's a good idea to kind of come back to this every few years, and especially if you find you're not happy in your current job, definitely it's time to do this kind of assessment and figure out if it's time to make a change, right? So, just something to keep in mind. So in addition to these, actually Melanie Cinch, who's the Director of Education at the Jackson Laboratory Genomic Medicine Campus, wrote a book called Next Gen PhD, which is an overview of a survey study she did with some colleagues about careers that PhDs in science have taken. And so she has some exercises at the beginning of the book that help you do some self-evaluation and figure out what you want to do. But it's also a great resource to see where other PhDs have gone, what types of careers they're in, and give you an idea of what types of career options are available, and figure out what may be a good fit for you. So after you've done that self-evaluation, you've kind of figured out what you want to do with your life, the next step is to research. And so you're going to want to research types of jobs, what those requirements are, figure out what specific jobs you're interested in, and then once you've narrowed it down to specific jobs you're interested in applying for, you're going to look for open positions, and ultimately you're going to be applying for those. So you're going to want to figure out what are the requirements for that position, both generally across just a job category, and also specific to a particular institution. And in addition to those requirements, every institution has a way, every working group has a way of talking about things, the way they communicate. And so you want to do some more research to figure out how people in that field communicate, how they talk, what type of language, what types of words, what type of abbreviations they use, but also if there's anything specific to a particular institution or working group. And the more you can incorporate those words and phrases that they use internally, the better off your application is going to be. And there's kind of two main reasons for that. One is that most of the times your application is going to have to go through HR and an HR screener. And those screeners, you know, they're good at their job, but they're not experts in every field, right? And they're getting their cues and their keywords from the person who wrote the job description, which is the person who's ultimately hiring it, the group you want to work for. And so you may say something in your application that means the same thing as what the hiring manager or the working group says they want, but the HR person may not make that connection, right? So the more you can phrase it in a way that's what that, how that institution phrases it, the better your application is going to look. The other thing is that people tend to like people who are like them, right? So the more you talk like them, you show that you think like them, they're going to be like, oh, this person gets us. They really belong with our group. They're going to be a good fit. And so there's kind of, those are the two advantages to really try to tailor your materials to that specific position. So here's a sample job ad from a postdoc position at the Jackson Laboratory. If you can just take a minute, read through this, and I'd like you to tell me what are some things that stand out in this job ad that you think you'd want to highlight in your CV and cover letter if you were to apply for this position? Okay, any ideas? Yes.
Well, if you have any epigenetic experience working with epigenetics or similar related things, you might want to highlight that.
Yeah, so, scientific expertise. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Anything else? Yeah?
Well, even if you don't necessarily have that particular expertise, you may have planned, executed, and analyzed a bunch of different research projects.
Yep.
So if you can illustrate that, that's another thing you could highlight. I think.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something, especially a lot of scientists take for granted, that's understood, you know, that, oh, yeah, of course, I'm getting a PhD, of course I can plan, execute, and analyze independent research projects. Most employers are going to want you to still demonstrate that in some way. So again, talking about specifically what you've done, how you've accomplished that, not just, I'm completing my PhD. Enough said. No, you need to go into more detail. And this is particularly true if you're applying for a job outside of academic research, or even outside of science in particular. These skills are valuable in a lot of different career paths, but they're going to want more than just saying, I'm a PhD student, or I got my PhD, to demonstrate that you actually have these abilities.
So like in saying all that, I'm guessing that you're going to be applying for this position like using a resume and also a cover letter. And a cover letter, I can imagine, is a good place to say all those things. But like, how do you like describe yourself as a self-motivated and career-oriented individual without just like saying that, because no one talks like that.
No, yeah. And that's a great point. And this is also like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? This can mean different things to different people, right? And so this is where your networking can really come in handy. Because if you have things like this, it's like you want to know, what does self-motivated and career-oriented mean to Jennifer Trowbridge, the person who's making this hiring decision, right? And so if you know her, or know people who work in her lab, or know people who work in that department, you can get an inside view on what is she looking for when she says self-motivated and career-oriented. And that can give you some specifics. So maybe it's publications, maybe it's that you present a lot at conferences, maybe that it's you've applied for fellowships. Like what demonstrates self-motivated and career-oriented to that particular individual? Because like you said, just saying, I'm self-motivated and career-oriented doesn't really tell them anything, right? Usually people want you to demonstrate, it's more what you've done than what you say about yourself, right? And so that way you can demonstrate in a way that means something to this person or is what they're looking for, specific things you've done that show that you're self-motivated and career-oriented. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right, so as we said, scientific skills are important. If you're applying for a job in research, either in academia or industry, there's going to be some scientific requirements. You obviously want to pay attention to those. But as we talked about, there's also other skills they're going to be asking you for, and those are just as important too. So we talked about self-motivated and career-oriented. Here also they have exceptional verbal and written communication skills. And again, you all have experience doing this. You've written, maybe fellowships, papers, you're presenting at conferences, even presenting here at the university. Maybe you get a journal club, maybe you've done departmental seminars. All of that counts, but you need to document that in your application materials to show them that you have those abilities. Even think about things outside. So maybe you volunteer and you give tours at a local science museum, or you mentor for a youth group. Those are all things where you're showing communication, leadership, management. Really think about the whole totality of what you have to offer and how it applies to the job you're applying for. The other thing to keep in mind is there's going to be a set of requirements that are bare minimum, so required skills, but it's important to differentiate those requirements from the desired skills, or what they're asking for. These are the nice to haves. And it can be tricky too, because a lot of times these will be listed under required skills, required experience, but you look at the language. Preference given to self-motivating, career-oriented individuals. So not required, they prefer. A strong background in molecular cell biology and epigenetics, preferred. Again, so when you're applying for a job or deciding to apply for a job, you want to make sure that you do have all of the minimum requirements. And then if you have one or two of these nice to haves, you'll probably be pretty competitive for that job. Most people, when they're writing job ads, they're kind of writing, if I could mold the ideal candidate from clay, bring them to life, this is exactly what I want them to have. They understand that probably that person is rare. It's unlikely that they'll get everything they want. It's kind of like when you're house searching, right? Unless you're building it from scratch, you're never going to get everything on your wish list. You have to pick and choose. So don't be afraid to apply for jobs just because you don't have everything they've listed on this huge laundry list. Again, as long as you have the minimum, it's a fair game to set in your application. And like I said, usually you'll be fairly competitive if you have one or two of those additional add-ons that they're asking for. The other thing to keep in mind is we already talked about doing your research, so hopefully when you're applying for a job, you're doing more than just looking at the job ad. You're doing some additional background research about the organization, about that group, about what people in that career typically need and look for. But you definitely want to look at, minimally, any information that they point you to in the job ad, right? So here they've given you the lab website. You definitely should have looked at this before submitting your application and taken any information you can from that to help you put together the best application you can. So once you've done your research, you figured out what you need to say, the next thing is to optimize your application materials. And so even if you're applying with a CV, you still want to optimize your CV for every position you apply for. So there's things you can do, like changing the order of the sections you present, what order you present your sections of information in, making sure the most important sections for that job are closer to the front, changing the descriptions you have of what you've done in your particular work experience so that it matches the skills or requirements they're asking for in that job. So you always take a look at your CV. Resumes definitely have to be customized. I mean, they're very short, so you don't have a lot of space to go into a lot of information. And this is really the best way you can demonstrate your fit for a particular position. And as I said, one of the ways to do this is to focus on your accomplishments. So a lot of people, when they're putting together their CV or resume, sometimes they'll list jobs and they'll do more of like a job description, like this is what people in this position do, as opposed to this is specifically what I did as part of this position. So here are the specific projects I work on, here were the, this is the number of papers I got out of it, this is the number of groups I interacted with, this is the, I received a fellowship in this amount to cover this work, those types of things. So again, you want to, ideally, I usually suggest doing this as bullets because they're easy to skim, easy to read. Starting with an action verb, you want to be specific and measurable and include quantification whenever possible. So what does that look like? So here are just some examples. Manage 6 simultaneous projects involving 4 teams of 5 scientists. So again, you've got specific numbers, scope of who you interacted with, who you communicated with. Optimize workflows for project monitoring, resulting in completion 3 weeks ahead of schedule and 15% below budget. So some of you express interest in applying to an industry type of position. Anything where you can say you save time or money goes over really, really well in kind of a business setting. Collaborated with 3 internal and 2 external groups to investigate MAP kinase signaling and published 4 scientific papers. So again, you're talking specifically about the number of groups you worked with, what you studied, and the result. Again, so 4 scientific papers. And if they want to know what those papers are, you'll have a list of your publications later on. So you don't have to list specifically here, but again, the net result of what you did. Taught a 12-week biology lab course for 30 undergraduate students. So now we're going to take a moment just to practice that. And so on the flip side of your handout, you've got another activity. And we're running a little short on time, so if you just want to brainstorm one accomplishment from your current position, on the top you can write that out just longhand, just what you did, and then try to turn that into a bullet point down below. And here's a list of some verbs to help inspire you if needed. Okay, so we're going to have to wrap that up now, but hopefully you guys get that kind of the idea of where we're going with this. How did you find that? Was that easy to do, or? Okay. It's going to take some, yes, sorry.
I actually had a question about it. So like, I think we can quantify what we do. So for example, like I developed a multicellular liver tissue model that retains hepatocyte phenotype for 2 months.
Yep.
Which is like a big accomplishment in my field.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know that like hepatocytes retaining that phenotype is difficult, that might not be like meaningful to you.
Yeah.
So like, how do you write it more generally, I guess?
Yeah, again, and that's and I think that'll depend on the type of position you're going for too. So there's definitely ways you could be more broad about it. So again, you're talking just about like developed scientific model or develop, using some of those kind of just broader terms. Like how would you characterize your work if you had to at the next stage up, right? Or again, pretend you're talking to your mom, right? Like how do you explain what you did to your mom in a way that she would understand and would be impressed by it, right? Without using a lot of the specific scientific terminology. But it is challenging, and this is a skill, and it's going to take some time to do. And that's where, again, it's helpful to get feedback from people who are in the jobs you're looking for, the career center. The more people you can have look at this, the better, because there's no magic bullet, or there's no like one right way to do it. And so you just really need to think about your audience, who's going to be evaluating this, what is the message you need to convey to them, and then what's the best way to say that that's accurate, but also at an appropriate level that they can understand the point you're trying to make with it, right? So the point I assume you're trying to make is that I improved the efficiency of a process, right? Or did this in a timeline that was expedited compared to normal, something like that, right? So start with that, and then figure out how to convey that message. Again, using the least amount of words, the most concise way you can, with the least amount of scientific jargon. Does that help? Okay. But yeah, all this is going to take practice, and so again, this is something. Usually, what I advocate is, like I said, you're going to want to tailor your application materials to every specific position. So, you guys have a good head start on this because you have CVs. But I advocate maintaining what I call a life document. So that includes not only your scientific jobs, but all the jobs you had in high school and college, that may seem tangential to what you're doing right now. But maybe you worked in a restaurant and you eventually applied for a customer service job. Well, working in a restaurant is usually customer service, right? So you may want to draw on those. But you keep something even for your current positions, your scientific positions, list everything you did as part of that, all the things you accomplished, and then you can pull from that to make bullets that are specific to meet the needs of whatever the job is that you're applying for. And that you don't have to write it out in bullets, write it out longhand, just as long as you can, refresh your memory. Oh yeah, I did do something where I optimized the process, or oh yeah, I did manage teams of people, or this is a type of communication experience I had. It's just something to jog your memory so that when you're putting together these bullets, you can pull from the actual experiences you've had. All right. So after you optimize, I'm sorry, I'm going to go through these really fast. We're running short on time. You're going to want to review the materials you put together. And so, like I said, you're applying with thousands of people. They're looking for a reason to exclude your documents. You don't want to give them one of those. No spelling, no grammar errors. Also, all of this stuff's going to be skimmed really quickly. And if there's something that catches their eye, they're going to look further. But the initial skim, if they don't see anything that catches their eye, you're just going to get tossed. So you want to make sure it's easy for them to skim. So again, use a reasonable sized font, have nice spacing between your sections so it's easy to find information. Use highlighting or bolding when appropriate, again, to draw the eye to information. These all have reasonable margins too. I cut them down to fit it on this slide. But don't try to cram, you've got limited space, but you also don't want to cram it full of words. The other thing to keep in mind is your header. So again, that first page, real estate, is prime. You want to have as much space of that devoted to actual content, not saying who you are and how to get in touch with you. So I advocate something that's more of this horizontal as opposed to a vertical alignment. Minimally, you need to have your name, an email address where you can be reached, and also a phone number where it goes just to you and has voicemail that you check at least once a day with a professional message. So once you review, the last step is question. And these are questions you're going to want to ask as you're going through your job search, figuring out what jobs to apply for, and also when you get to the point where you're applying and interviewing. And this is really the best way to demonstrate your interest for the position. If you're asking questions of them, it shows that you've thought about the position, how you fit in, how you might work there, and also determine your fit. So you're going to want to find answers to some questions so that you know whether this is the right position for you. And so there are some categories of questions that I'm going to go through. These are mostly geared toward research positions, but some of them are applicable to other types of positions. And I'm going to use the Jackson Laboratory as an example. So first is the institution. So you want to think about what kind of institution you want to work for. Do you want to work for a university? Do you want to work for a company? Do you want to work for a nonprofit? And some of this may be guided if you're looking for research by what type of research you want to do. Do you want to do applied research, translational, basic science, clinical research? So for example, the Jackson Laboratory, we're a nonprofit biomedical research institution. So a lot of people are confused about that because many of you may have bought mice from us, but that's actually part of our nonprofit. Providing high quality mouse models for researchers around the world is part of our nonprofit mission to advance biomedical research. And so we also have a lot of education and outreach programs. We have our own basic science laboratories led by PIs conducting independent research, and a lot of other things under that nonprofit umbrella. Globally, our mission is to improve human health and empower the global biomedical community in our shared quest to do that. And so all of our efforts at JAX are really focused around that, either helping us better understand, diagnose, or treat a human disease or condition. So that's both our basic science labs and the business side of our organization. So as we talk about research, you're going to want to think about both the institutional focus of the organization you're joining, as well as the specific projects that you'd be doing in the position you're applying for. So now at JAX, our basic science research areas cover a wide array of basic biomedical science. So I've listed some of those areas here. You can find more information on our website. And as I said, all of our labs are really focused on helping us improve human health. All of our labs are centered around a particular disease or condition typically, and they'll employ multiple methodologies and techniques to do that. So we don't really have labs dedicated to a specific technique or investigative method. So like we don't have structural biology exclusive labs or computational biology exclusive labs. They're usually employing multiple techniques to answer that question and understand that disease that they're looking at. So if you're going to be conducting research or any job you do, you want to make sure you have facilities that can support the work you're doing, right? So equipment or resources, you're going to want to know what kind of access you have. Are they within the organization? Do you share them with another organization? Is it through collaboration? And for any of those shared resources, what is your access like to that? How easy is it for you to get access? How often can you access it? And is there a cost and who pays for that, right? So at JAX, we have over 20 shared resources for our academic research labs. I've got some of them listed here. You can find more information again on our website. But these are separate from the business side. So again, they're not competing for resources. And we've got a wide array. They're there to help our researchers get to the next stage. So again, they'll do everything for you, or if you want to learn a technique, they're there to help train you in that so that you can use it for the future. So in addition to supporting your work, you're also wanting to know if you have individual support. So salary is obviously important, but also think about the benefits and whether they offer career development for you. So at JAX, we have very competitive benefits. There's a handout in your folder that lists those. We also offer great career development services, particularly for our postdoc trainees and PhD students. So our postdocs actually have guidance from our education committee, which is kind of like your PhD thesis committees. They meet once a year and evaluate the progress of all of our postdoctoral fellows. So it's a great check-in, again, to make sure that you have figured out what you want to do with your life, that you're on track to do that, you're making progress so that you don't get stuck in the never-ending postdoc. So again, which we don't want you to do. It's a training position. We want you to move on. We also have dedicated career counselors on both of our campuses who meet with you at least once a year, and they're available to, again, help you figure out where you want to go and help you figure out what you need to get there. But you can meet with them more frequently than that. Again, environment. And so you want to think about the environment at the institution, both within the individual laboratory or individual unit that you're working in, but also the overall community at that institution. So at JAX, we have over 2,000 employees across our 3 campuses. It's a really diverse community. As I mentioned, we have PhD and MD level scientists and researchers. We also have physicians, we have business leaders, we have students and trainees. all working together towards our mission. And finally, you want to think about the location. So where is the institution located? And here's some factors you may want to consider. A lot of this is personal, but how much does it cost to live there? Can you afford to live there on the salaries they're paying you? For you, weather and climate? What kind of recreational and entertainment options are available? If you want to do, you have an interest in education, either for yourself or for people in your household, schools, and also transportation. How is it easy to get around or to get back and forth to visit family if that's important to you? As I mentioned, at JAX we have 3 locations. So our main campus is in Bar Harbor, Maine. This is our mammalian genetics campus. So our basic science researchers there are really focused on using more molecular and cellular investigations, but as I said, they do supplement with other types of investigations. We also have a genomic medicine campus in Farmington, Connecticut. So there we have our basic science research labs there are all human tissue based, and they also all have a dry lab component, so a computational component. We also have a CLIA certified clinical genomics laboratory on this campus. So again, JAX is also involved in a lot of clinical outreach programs. One in particular is called the Maine Cancer Genomics Initiative, and so then we're supporting and providing support for physicians in the Maine region right now to analyze genomic data and use that in their practice in a clinically meaningful way, so either to inform diagnostic or treatment decisions. And then we do have a third facility in Sacramento, California. This is basically exclusively for the business side of our organization. So we provide in vivo research support services on a contract basis to external investigators, both in academia and in industry and biotech pharma. And so a lot of our in vivo pharmacology experiments that are conducted for external investigators are done at that site. And so finally, just how JAX can help. We can definitely help with your career development, your research, and your next position. So in the handouts I gave you, there's a career resource booklet that was put together by our career counselors. It has some advice on how to, figure out what you want to do, prepare yourself, and actually apply, as well as links to a lot of the resources at the Jackson Laboratory. We also, our career counselors also offer free CV review, so there's a card in your packet. Again, if you're interested in taking advantage of that, please fill it out and give it to me after the presentation. We have a number of online resources. So we have a blog that's dedicated to career development topics called Career Corner. You can view that on our website. It's also part of one of our newsletters called JAX Research Roundup that you can subscribe to, and this will come to your inbox. I think it's every 2 weeks or every month, which has the career development topics, as well as some upcoming events and some updates on the research that's coming out of our academic research laboratories at JAX. There's a number of other newsletters you can subscribe to. Again, you can find more information on our website. We also run a series of courses and conferences that are directed towards PhD student and above researchers on a variety of topics. There's a handout in your packets also about those types of opportunities. One in particular that you may be interested in is a course we call The Whole Scientist, which is designed for PhD and students and postdocs to help you develop skills outside of the laboratory, so like leadership, mentoring, finance management, those types of writing. Those types of skills that are important for almost any type of career that you don't get a lot of training on through traditional work in a PhD program. So it's held every year in Bar Harbor in spring. So these are the dates for 2018. Again, there's a card in your packet about that. So we're registering now. And for this program and actually all of our courses and conferences, we offer scholarships. And historically, we've had more scholarship money than we've been able to give away. So I'm not guaranteeing that you'll get a scholarship, but if you apply, there's a good chance that you could be successful to get a scholarship to attend this course in particular. We've historically been able to offer scholarships to everyone who has been registered and accepted. Again, I'm not saying that we'll be able to continue that, but it's highly likely that you can get a scholarship. And for the other courses, like I said, there are scholarships available. And the scholarship level varies from course to course, depending on the funding source, but there's more information about that on the website. So if there's a course you're interested in, but your PI can't afford to pay for it, I still encourage you to apply for a scholarship, and like I said, see where that takes you. As I said, a number of other online courses. So some of our courses have an online component. So if you can't come to Bar Harbor or Farmington to take it, you may be able to take it online for a reduced price. We also have these mini courses and certificates. Again, there's a handout in your packet about that as well. So these are all self-paced. There is a fee for these. They're like $40 or $50 for each individual unit, and then you can group them together in a bundle for $100, $120 for groups of 3. This first one, Introduction to the Laboratory Mouse, is free right now. So if you want to just check it out and see what it's like, you can do that. We also have a series of free webinars on various topics, and these are interactive, so they're at a specific date and time, but if you can't participate at that date and time, you can still register and then receive the course materials 24 hours after the time it's broadcast. So I would encourage you to register even if you can't attend in person. And then we also have some on-demand videos that you can play obviously anytime. Again, all of this is free of charge. So a lot of you, if you've used our mice, you may have gone through our mouse search, but we also maintain a genomics informatics and phenome database about mouse strains, not just at JAX, but that have been published on either commercially or academically around the world. So again, we'll give you all of the information that's available in one space, tell you where you can get it or who has it. And so those are, again, great resources to look at least initially, if you're looking at doing an in vivo study. And we have some other resources as well, so software, data sets and databases. And then obviously career opportunities. We have a number of types of careers in a variety of areas, including independent faculty positions. We also have collaborative PhD programs with 3 partner schools. We have a postbac program and postdoc opportunities, including a specialized subset of our postdocs, which is called the JAX Scholar. And this is a program that's designed to help train postdocs for independent research careers as academic faculty members. So you receive an increased salary and also a research budget to complete an independent project, again, to help you apply for a K-99 or other type of transitional award, and as well as additional career support services along that line. So again, more information about the Scholar program on our website. And so I'm sorry I kept you guys a little late, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone might have. That if anyone has data sheets or CV request cards they'd like to give me, please feel free to do that, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. But thanks for coming.